When Tim and I started making yogurt, it's just like opened up a whole new world of vegan cuisine that I had kind of left behind when I became a vegan when Tim and I first married. So I'm very excited to share with it to you tonight. This is some of the yogurt I made this morning, and you can see it's nicely set up. Just plain yogurt. And plain yogurt is so useful because you can, if you want to serve it on top of waffles, you could add a little vanilla and put some raspberries. So I thought I would start off tonight just talking about making the basic yogurt, and then I will, I didn't bring tonight vanilla and sunflower yogurt, but I brought the recipe because I know some people may not be able to eat soy. I have one friend that was particularly hoping to be here tonight, and she cannot eat soy, and so this was for her. I hope she's able to come. But if you hear of someone or you know of someone that can't eat soy, this is an outstanding recipe. So let's start off with making yogurt, and I am so pleased that making yogurt does not have to be, it doesn't have to be difficult. It's as easy as anything you'll probably have ever made. It works really well just to do it in your oven with the oven light on. So that's what I will talk about tonight. So the first thing is you have to use a soy milk or a nut milk or any of those, any milk actually, the non-dairy milk that doesn't have lots of extra ingredients. You want just something really simple. Just in this case, like soy milk, soybeans, and water. Nothing else added. I don't think it would work to use something like silk. So as you can see, that's step one. We've added our milk, and then it says a dash of salt. And Tim had a patient that gave him these nice little spoons, and they say smidgen, nip, and dash. And somehow I feel a little more scientific instead of if I was just, doing this. Here it is, a dash of salt. And then there's some honey, and I talked to Tim about the whole honey issue. Where did he go? There he is. And I was trying to think, well, if you make yogurt, I was just trying to think of what the amount that you would be eating on a per serving basis. And he assured me that it was not too high. Is that true?
I was hoping to just sit there and enjoy watching my wife. But so there's nothing wrong with carbohydrates. And what you want to do is avoid refined carbs. And a good rule of thumb is anytime you have a meal, if you have a carb to fiber ratio of 5 or less, it's not going to push your blood sugar up rapidly. So in soy milk, if you look at it, this has 1 gram of fiber, and it has 4 grams of carbohydrate. So that's a ratio of 4. That's great. If you're diabetic, that's not going to push your blood sugar up. And so if you add a little bit of honey into 2 of these, your carb fiber ratio is still fine, and you're going to do well. Now, if you did that with cow's milk, it wouldn't work because there is no fiber in cow's milk, none. That's why it'll push your blood sugar up a lot more rapidly than soy milk. Almond milk also has less fiber. Why does it have less fiber than soy milk? Because they take it out. That's why. I mean, if you make your own and keep the whole nut in there, it'll be a little grainy, but it would have a higher fiber. But with soy milk, they leave a lot of the fiber in. There are some milks that have more. Silk has 2 grams of, it has 4 grams of carbohydrate and 2 grams of fiber. So it has a ratio of 2 instead of 4, so it's even better. Why not use silk? Well, you can, but you want to avoid milks that have preservatives in them because if it has a preservative in it, it will inhibit bacterial growth. Well, then you won't make yogurt, because yogurt is bacteria gone wild. You've heard about probiotics, right? Oh, they're so good for you. Well, yogurt is a probiotic. So is dirt. Yeah. I mean, there are more probiotics, bacteria, in 1 teaspoon of dirt than there are people on the planet. So your grandmother said you got to eat a peck of dirt before you die, right? She was right. You know, the problem is we don't get bacteria that way anymore, because all the food we buy in the grocery store, or most of it, is irradiated to keep it from spoiling, and they kill all the bacteria. So now we have created a whole new industry of probiotics. But this is one way to get them.
So there's 2 ways to use your activating agent in yogurt. And one of them is to use a store-bought yogurt. And there's many varieties that will work. This one, I had a special order, but it does work very well. But any good soy yogurt, plain, will work. But I've been making so much yogurt, I ran out. So this is your other option, is once you started making yogurt, then you can use some of your own yogurt as a starter. And my daughter-in-law explained to me that you can use it several times, and then it may start losing its effectiveness. So I put in a little extra, just like as an insurance policy. But she's a quarter of a cup is supposed to be all you need. That's it. So what's the next step? You
stir it.
Yes, that is the next step. You stir this in well, and then you put it on your stovetop. Well, actually, before I do this, I turn the oven light on in my oven, so they'll start bringing the temperature up.
It takes a while to bring the temperature in the oven up with an oven light. So turn it on first and then do this, and
maybe
wait a while. And
even an hour or 2 beforehand, just to bring up the temperature of your oven.
So you put it on the stove and on a low heat, and stir it gently and bring it up to 115. Then you just take the pot and put it in the oven.
So when I do this, I just put my lid on and stuck it in the oven, and 12 hours later, it was done. Made beautiful yogurt.
You can buy a yogurt maker if you want, but an oven light works well. It's a lot cheaper, and you don't have to store it anywhere.
So this is when you make yogurt, it turns out to look just like this.
It will last for several weeks, but you don't have to make that much. If it's one person, you can do 1 quart instead of 2. The other thing is straining. You don't have to strain it, but if you want to strain it, it gets thicker. You can add a thickener like tapioca flour or cornstarch, that works, and then you don't have to strain it. But if you want to strain it, the longer you strain it, the thicker it gets. If you want a product more like sour cream, really thick, or Greek yogurt, just forget it a while longer, and it gets thicker. If you want it to be like cream cheese, leave it a little longer.
So after having it in the oven for 12 hours, I put it in a strainer, like this, and it's a very fine strainer, and it gradually goes through. I think the cheesecloth also works. So you see there's a recipe for millet and sunflower yogurt, and the directions are here. And what she did, when you strain the yogurt, you lose some product. And so my friend Debbie Boyd is very, very good about watching her pennies. And so she said, I don't want to lose any yogurt. So she thickens it with tapioca flour before she puts it in the oven.
You could, but I don't think it would taste like yogurt. If you want to do it that way, what you have to do is this. You leave the flaxseed unground, bring it to a boil, and strain it. and you'll get a gelatinous material like an egg white off of it, and then you can use that. But I'd say use cornstarch or tapioca flour, and they work quite nicely. Yeah.
So the next recipe we're going to talk about is the one on this other page. It's called Tzatziki yogurt sauce. And since I've been making this is probably one of our top requested dishes. And it tastes delicious over beans or lentils. It makes a really a nice counter flavor to beans as well as falafels. So you can use it for traditional Middle Eastern cooking. You can also use it as a topping for lentils or beans. Okay, so here's your I apologize. Tzatziki. I'm sure there's a correct way to say this, and if any of you know it, you can speak it right out. So here is, I pre-chopped my cucumbers and added my lemon juice. So in here I have the cucumbers and the lemon juice. And so now I'm just going to add in my yogurt. And then you want to press your garlics, the garlic press.
Hey, we even have knives here. Look at that. This is a real kitchen. These garlic are from our garden. And 2 cloves from our garden are about like 3 or maybe 4 from elsewhere, but I like things to be very garlicky. So there it is.
So this is just cucumbers, lemon juice, yogurt, garlic, mint, and a little salt. That's it. And you stir it and you're done. So the last thing we're going to talk about tonight are falafels. And traditional falafels are deep fat fried. We don't want to deep fat fry anything. So these are baked falafels. Making this mini falafels gave me a lot of practice. And I found that if you start with the parsley on the bottom, that it works much faster. Somehow when you put the beans in on top, then everything kind of pulls down. It works really well. So there's my parsley. And then I add in the onions and the garlic. I always worry about the garlic not getting chopped up. It's a painful thing to chomp down on a big piece of garlic.
I like it.
And then I add in so here's the thing about garbanzos. You can either buy them in a can. You always want to watch for the ones that are BPA free if you buy them in a can. Or alternatively, you can cook them from scratch. And cooking from scratch is wonderful in that they taste really nice and they are way cheaper and you don't have to worry about what else is being added to them. So there it is. We're going to do 1 can including the liquid and 1 can without. Some people make these very dry, but I find that when they're very dry, they tend to kind of break apart. And so if you add your garbanzo juice, it acts as kind of like a binder. Some people are doing amazing things with garbanzo juice. You may have heard about it. Christy, you can make a meringue pie, lemon meringue pie using garbanzo juice to make a meringue.
But you change the name, you call it aquafaba.
So this is my cumin and my coriander. So these spices are wonderful, and as I understand, they're also good for us. So you can think cheerful thoughts when you add them in. It's always nice. And we had some guests over the weekend staying at our house, and he told me that when you add these two spices, you need to use rounded spoons. So a rounded tablespoon, yes. Got to get it right. You can freeze these. Yeah, you can freeze these.
I'll take care of that. You can leave
All right, so the only thing we have left is red pepper flakes. You know, I have found having some of these red pepper flakes in my pantry is really useful because, say I'm making a cheese sauce or something like that, just putting a little small amount gives a little heat and flavor without making too strong of a presence. So it's nice. It's nice to have something that even a small amount really makes a big impression. So then it's just salt.
She wants to do it.
But you can see how fast this is mixing. And if I had put the garbanzos on the bottom, it wouldn't have worked.
Did you want these?
Yeah. I actually need the 2 regular spoons in my kitchen.
Is
I
this
think
what
that's
you need?
about perfect.
This?
Okay, that's it. So the tricky thing with this dish is that if it's too dry, then they tend to be crumbly, and if it's too wet, they don't work together quite as well either. But I think it's pretty good. What do you think? So
It'll taste the same either way.
the way you do it is you use a silpat. Are you familiar with silpats?
I know what they are.
Silpats are friends. Now, you don't have to have a silpat. You can just put some grease on your pan, and that works just great. If you're trying to avoid it, then this is something that works really well. So the way I do it, you bring me my other spoon.
What is the material?
And we know from everything science has taught us that lower temperatures are better. So I think the lower temperatures we can bake at, the better. And these brown beautifully at 400 degrees. So we don't need to go up to a high temperature in order to do it.
So you don't need to put them all on.
So I'm not going to put these all on because we want to save time. But I wanted to show you. So I either use a fork or a spoon, and I just kind of flatten up the top, but I don't try and press them down. I just flatten off the tops of them, space these out, and when you bake them, they tend to spread out. So what these look like, they have some space in between them. You have to leave some space and just allow them to spread. And I bake them for 20 minutes on one side, then flip them and give them another 10 or 15 minutes on the other side.